Well, the dummy test, actually, you need to get the book. Actually, you need to look in there. If you look in here, you'll find there are a couple of things in which the dummy tests get lots of media attention. I have it tabbed, and I should be able to find it, but quite frankly, I'm sitting here and my knees are shaking.
26, sir.
20, page 26.
Yes, yeah. Explain those two things.
Okay, there's the picture for that. But let me tell you that I don't know why they can't associate that time period. I'm sorry, I just don't have any information for that. All I know is what the Air Force did, and that if you overlay much of their claims and you look at the Air Force scientific research, you can see it's obvious that what we're talking about at Roswell, and I don't mean Roswell in 47 because that was Project Mogul. That was unmanned. I want to make that very clear. And that's the first report. But over that period of time, dummies were dropped all around there. And I think it's logical to assume that the people there saw Air Force ambulances come out, they saw gurneys come out, they saw body bags come out because the dummies were put in the body bags to protect them. They saw people in pith helmets. They saw people in shorts out there brushing the bushes looking for the remnants of the balloons. And when you put all that stuff together and spin it, you find that it fits perfectly with many of the occurrences in Roswell during that era.
They also said that these figures were much smaller stature than full-size adult figures. How do you reconcile that?
I don't reconcile that. I just have no idea why they say that.
Can you help us with when the dummies were first used? What year?
53.
And how many, you say, numbers?
Well, the actual balloon launchings were about 2,500. The actual number of dummies dropped were, it's actually in the book and it's very specific, but the number just escapes me. It's more than 300 or 400. Yes, sir.
Why did they make it, the design resemble to flying saucer? It makes it very suspicious.
The flying saucer? Now, you were talking about in the video. That's also in here, I might add, and you saw it in the video. Some of the, and you're looking at payloads. What they were doing is they wanted to recover these payloads, and so they were testing the parachutes. And I totally agree. If I saw something like that, I'm riding along out there near Rio del Sol, and I'm wandering out in the desert, and I see this funny-looking dish out there, I might want to poke around at it. But quite frankly, this is probably what it was.
You keep saying, using the word probably, and you say case closed. Those two don't jive.
Yeah,
How do you reconcile that?
Okay, let me say, from the Air Force perspective, that's exactly what it was.
So does the Air Force
and I don't mean to be rude about that. I want you to understand we are very, very proud of this report. We think in our office that this answers lots of questions, and it answers them logically and with integrity. And one other thing I might add is if you want to do your own research, in the back is a complete technical report bibliography, and also there is a terrific set of endnotes. And I recommend that if you're interested in this, that you take these and you do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Yes, sir.
Does the Air Force have any evidence at all of any sort of spacecraft wreckage or extraterrestrial presence on Earth?
Yes, sir.
And what is, can you tell us anything about this myth of Area 51, which has become part of everything from Hollywood movies to a local legend? What is Area 51? Is there such a place, and what does it do?
That actually should be outside this brief. Let me ask you a question. If you are talking about Groom Lake, Nevada, is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the scene everybody remembers from the movie Independence Day.
My daughter asked me the same question. There is a facility in Groom Lake, Nevada. Quite frankly, I have no knowledge or expertise in the matters. I understand there are classified things that go on there, and that's all I have to say about it.
Well, let me just have one follow-up. How do you know, I mean, your name is now, Colonel John Haynes is going to go down in UFO lore as one of the people who took part, in the minds of some people, in the continuing cover-up by the government. How do you know that you're not being used? How do you know that you know the full story when you tell us that there's no evidence of this?
Because our job is to review all the Air Force documents for this era. And that's how we came up with this exciting and interesting and intriguing, quite frankly, report. I know you think that sounds like a broken record, but you need to get in here and read it, and you will see that many of the things that people think they saw correlate perfectly with Air Force research projects.
You're confident that you're not part of any cover-up, wittingly or unwittingly?
I'm totally confident. But I think Colonel Weaver, you might have seen him on TV earlier, said it best. We can't even keep single secrets. How could we have a conspiracy or a cover-up? Yes, sir.
Question, a follow-up to the Groom Lake operating location. Recently, there were a lot of sightings out in Arizona of supposed UFOs. Is it possible, within the range of possibility, that any classified aircraft from the Groom Lake area were in that vicinity, and this might explain why people are suddenly seeing a lot of strange landing lights and so forth?
Well, let me say two things. Number one, as far as Groom Lake, I don't have any knowledge of that area. Forgive me. It's just not within my area of expertise. I don't have the access. End of quote. Secondly, if you're interested in the Arizona question, I suggest that you contact the local authorities in Arizona and see what they have to say, because the Air Force no longer does any investigation of UFOs. Yes, sir.
Let's go back to that so-called Area 51, because in people's minds, when you say I can't talk about it because it's classified, conjures up, oh, there it is. There's the cover-up. Can you give us any hint, without violating any sense of a confidential nature, what kinds of things might be happening?
Sir, I cannot. Forgive me. I just do not know.
Is there anyone in the Air Force that can?
I'm going to have to defer that to public affairs. It's outside of my area of expertise. Forgive me, but it's just outside of my area of expertise.
Rule out that Area 51 is only human-made equipment and intelligence.
Is that, do we call that leading the witness? Is that what we're... I'm sorry. I just don't know. Forgive me. It's just not an area that I have knowledge. Yes, ma'am.
Let me just go back one more time. That you say this is case closed and people should now believe it, but with the major hole, though, of you're saying that they're wrong about the date, and the date being 6 years' time that they're wrong about. How can you, what explanation can you give them other than just saying, well, we just think they're just mistaken by 6 years?
Well, I have no other explanation. I'm sorry. I have no other explanation. I'm looking at the facts as we have studied them, and I have no other explanation for that but what I've already given.
But how would
Yes,
that
sir.
make it case closed?
Because we've reviewed all the relevant information, and we have finished this, and we're not going to revisit it. And in fact, it's all unclassified. You have an opportunity on your own behalf. I recommend you get the report, start digging in, get on the web, see what you can find out.
Hang on, and think that it was necessary to respond now to this. Why did you have to come up with this report?
Well, we actually came up with the report because this is intriguing and fascinating research. You may have noticed this is also the 50th anniversary of the United States Air Force. You may have also concluded that we have been talking about other things about space and things of that nature, and this high-altitude balloon research is quite fascinating. But it was left in the dust. It's something we uncovered, and it's just kind of left in the dust of the space program. It wasn't romantic. Now you have men going up on the end of rockets, and here are guys jumping out of balloons. Kittinger, I believe, broke the speed of sound jumping out of that balloon. Can you imagine that? I mean, I can't imagine it. Yes, sir.
Is it possible that the Air Force could have missed something in its investigation? In other words, is it possible that there are unidentified flying objects, that there are extraterrestrial visits, and the Air Force simply has not found it or been able to detect it?
We have researched the Air Force projects and the Air Force information for these year groups. We have nothing else to say about them. You know, we don't believe there's anything else. I have no way of even vaguely believing there's anything else. I promised the gentleman right back here a question, sir, yes, sir.
Well, about 50 years ago today, a Air Force pilot spied a big array of saucers supposedly flying over Washington State. That may have started all this. Does the Air Force think it will never again investigate these reports? Is Project Blue Book was the end, and that's it?
You know, I don't ever want to speak for the Air Force about never again, but it's my opinion that they will not. Yes, sir.
Sir, from just a cursory examination of the report, it would appear that the Air Force compiled this information at the request of the GAO, at the request of the New Mexico congressperson, if I'm correct.
Now, that was report one, sir.
But even given then, even at that time, why then didn't the Air Force provide these very readily explanations for UFO activity when these questions first started being surfaced?